What's up, millennials? During yesterday's live stream, we talked a little bit about C3.ai, and people were asking me about the technical analysis. So in this video, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you why I believe a potential breakout could happen very soon. Let's do it. But before we begin, this is a very exciting week for all of us because I'm going to be launching my program about technical analysis. And if you also want to be able to read charts like me in this video, then you can sign up at nesami.com/TA to stay up to date. So this company C3.ai is an enterprise AI company. They have some major customers like the US Air Force, Shell, and 3M as well. And this might actually be a company that I'd like to do a little bit more research on because I might want to have a pure AI play in my portfolio at some point in the future. And if we look at the revenue of the last quarter of C3.ai, we can see that they had about $50 million in revenue in the last quarter. So if you annualize that, if you do that times 4, then of course that's about $200 million in revenue for the entire year, more or less. And if you take into account that they currently have a market cap of about $7 billion, then of course the price to sales ratio is about 35, which is definitely not cheap, but do keep in mind this is a growth company. But on the other hand, we do not have insane growth so far. If you look at the revenue year over year, you can see that the difference in this quarter versus the quarter 1 year earlier was just about 20% growth. So it's not massive growth, but yeah, definitely a growth company. Okay, so for this technical analysis, we're going to be looking at the daily chart of C3.ai, which right now is trading under the ticker symbol AI, of course. And the first thing I want to tell you is that we're looking at a daily chart right now. So that means that every vertical bar you see, every candlestick, as we call them, is 1 day of price action. First of all, we're going to take a look at the support and resistance. And keep in mind as well that this is still a relatively young chart. We don't have a lot of price action just yet because, yeah, they just had their IPO last year in December, of course, the 9th of December, I believe. So it is a young chart. We don't have a lot of price action to go on, but we are going to take a look at, first of all, the support and resistance. So let's do it. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can actually see what I'm also talking about. So first of all, we can see that there is strong support at that $60 level, more or less. That was created by this low over here, back at the end of March, and by this low over here and this low over here. So that level of $60 seemed to be a very strong level of support. If we look to the upper level, we can see that we have some resistance going on around $71. So that was created by this high over here on the 5th of April and this high over here on the 15th of April. So the question right now is going to be, are we again going to stay below that resistance level of $71, or are we going to be able to break above that level? I do think if we see a daily candlestick closure above $71, and if we see a lot of volume accompanying that, then I do think the breakout is real and we could see a potential reversal going on. Now, another bullish signal that I like here is the exponential moving averages. As you might know, I usually use 4 exponential moving average. I've got the 8, 13, 21, and 55 daily exponential moving averages working for me right now. And we can see that we are very close to a cross between the 8 daily exponential moving average and the 13 daily EMA. Because if you go back to where we were back here at the end of February, more or less, first of all, we saw this nice trend line holding price action up relatively well. And then we saw this candlestick closure below that trend line. So that was already a first indication that we might see a downtrend happening later on. But that was also because we had these EMAs going on, these exponential moving averages going on right here. We can see that we had a nice cross to the downside. So the 8 daily exponential moving average, this yellow line, crossing below the 13 daily exponential moving average. And that has been the case all the way down to where we are right now. And right now, for the first time since, well, a few months actually, we do seem to create a cross back to the upside. So that is definitely a good sign too. Also, if we zoom out a little bit and we go to the RSI, we can see that that is in a pretty bullish posture, I would say. We have seen the price action going a little bit sideways for now, but the RSI seems to be more constructive compared to price action because this is actually making higher lows all the way. We see a low over here, higher low, higher low, higher low, and also higher high. So a high over here, higher high, and a higher high. So that definitely seems to be pretty constructive on the RSI. We also see that the EMA, the exponential moving average, is moving back to the upside. First of all, we had this white line, this EMA going down, down, down. And then on the 14th of April, more or less, we saw the EMA going up instead. So that's a pretty positive sign. And the RSI, so again, that blue line over here has crossed above the EMA and now is using it as support, which always is pretty good too. So that is also a pretty good sign in general. And if we go to the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence indicator, always beautiful to say that word, we can see that we had a cross up from the MACD, the blue line over here, back to the upside, back above that signal line, but that was already a while ago, of course, and now we are still bullish, we are still going to the upside. At the same time, we also see higher lows on the histogram, so these vertical bars are the histogram on the MACD. We saw a low over here on the 24th of March, we saw a higher low on the 12th of April, and a higher low on the 20th of April. So that also seems a pretty good bullish sign. So in general, it looks like the indicators are telling us that we do see a nice setup for a potential reversal back to the upside. So what could be my targets right now? We'll actually zoom in a little bit more. Let's go back to this price action over here, because I do think there are a few important levels, because if we do break to the upside, if we do see a candlestick closure above that $71 resistance we have been talking about earlier on, I do think we're going to see a move back to at least probably the resistance level of $83.50, which was a previous resistance created by this low over here. But we can also be looking at the 55 exponential moving average for resistance, because you can see that the EMA is right now moving to the downside, this white line being the 55 EMA, that is definitely moving to the downside and is going to be, moving a little bit more to the downside, probably alongside that $84.50 level more or less. So I do think that the level between $83 and $85 more or less is going to be an important resistance level. And by the way, also let's pull up a nice Fibonacci retracement tool. Let's actually see if we can find it over here. Let's take that from the top to the bottom of this entire range. So as we can see, the 0.36 level seems to be indicating that we are going to have some resistance there as well, which is lining up perfectly with the 55 EMA. So yeah, again, I do think that the level between $83 and potentially even $86 is going to be a strong level of resistance. Now, if the $71 level is actually too strong, let's actually zoom in a little bit more. So yeah, if the resistance of $71, which we have been talking about earlier on, is too strong, then I would actually target a move back to that support level of $60, and then I would reevaluate the situation at that moment in time. So that is my interpretation of the technical analysis of C3.ai at this point. And again, keep in mind, if you want to be able to read charts like me, you can sign up at nesami.com/TA. And I'm also looking forward to hearing from you. Do you think we have seen the bottom and we are right now ready for a reversal? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!